Um, First of all, I just gotta start off by saying thank you, God. Um, First of all, I just gotta start off by saying thank you, God. I think I said that as much as I can, and it's just magical that I'm able to see things for what they are. I'm telling you, I know when I make videos, and if you're not a tire individual, things are, they appear to be almost insanity because it is. They put target individual in the environment of pure retardation. And that word, I know I've used it a lot, but actually, the first time I heard that is when a target individual was describing his state of mind, how it's manipulated, and it's reinforced by people who have done everything possible using whatever gaslighting methods, using a presentation, using a tonality, using an image of all sorts to try to counter reality. And most importantly nowadays, using the warnings of whatever torture I'm going to experience. It's because reality is humiliating. For example, before I'm about to make this video, because these videos, they're not going to change what's going to happen to me. But they wanted to do these things in that perceived, fantasized retardation of reality they wanted to paint them. They wanted to be perceived, these perps partaking in this program, doing these things to you, as this fantasized reality that is so ridiculously, ridiculously, I don't even want to use that word again, but damn near retarded. But when perps partake in that, you would think that these people are like there's the fiercest human beings you have ever heard talk. But they are truly damn near mentally retarded. Damn near mentally retarded. I can't even believe it, retarded, disgusting clowns and cowards. I can't even imagine a man or woman who can play this game. And they get frustrated that well, it is what it's like. No, you're an idiot. You know what you're really part of, and you know what you really are. I'm so thankful. Whatever hole I'm going to go through is coming from people who do what you're going to hear. They've pushed many into death, suicide, sickness, just destitution. These people, these many are men, women, and children. I love the fact that they want you to think that, oh, they are here avenging. They're just severely torturing you because they're severely avenging. I'm not being comical when this is what they say. These people are clearly involved in some of the worst things you can imagine, down to even children. You have these people, these perps, I'm telling you, have sold their soul to whatever entities and have sold their sense of coldness and self-respect. Any self-respect that you can have when you're involved in this program is gone. For example, it gets as bad as this. Today, the manipulations are obvious. And the way they try to make you accepting of it is just crazy. Right now, by the way, they're making noise campaign with chains, right? That's supposed to make me feel like, oh, the fear of me being in chains should make me accepting of that. They put this so much there and they believe that they have the chains. I'm going to die in chains. I was like, I want to die in chains. I will never let you live in your fantasized reality. They have this low life around me just making all the noise campaign. All this theatrical and games they play to get you to accept this fantasized reality. That's why I always say thank you. I couldn't imagine myself do what they do. One example, for example, this is when I know when a human being is compromised for real. There is a grown man who just opened the door and yelled, "Oh, you're gonna frame you!" And he said that as when they make me think of this person who looked like somewhat of a young adult with a baby. Her having the baby make it seem more like she's an adult. It's obviously her baby. It's not the baby. She was with a older woman who's in her 60s, or close to that. And it was her. Obviously, the woman in the 60s cannot have children at that point, and obviously the baby is hers, right? And I'll give this young person like an early 20s or so, and that's her child, right? And having a child, her having the child makes me think she's older, obviously, because majority of people having children are adults. Yes, children can have children, but majority of people having children are adults, so it's easy to think that this person is a young adult with a child. And she also appeared to be somewhat of a young adult. I remember her saying something mean to me or something like that, and then I looked at her, and she grabs her baby. As soon as I saw her with the baby, I was like, okay, she's probably like a young adult. I look at her up and down, I was like, okay. She looked like a, yeah, it's okay. Like, I'm okay. Like, it would not, she would not take me anywhere special. Like, she would not, she was just like, oh, okay. Now, I'm saying that's not just to be judgmental of somebody's body. I'm not doing that. The reason why I'm saying that is because the way they create narrative in your brain is like, oh, you're interested. It's like, no, not really. She was like, okay, well. And not to say she's bad, but I'm just like, okay, she kind of looked like she kind of gave birth not too long ago. And the baby was not too low. It's like an infant. But, you know, I'm not going to be descriptive. But that's that. Now they're like, no, she's actually a kid who's a mom or something like that. I'm like, she looked like a young adult and with a child. Now they can make me imagine anything. And maybe the thing is, they probably what they were trying to do is maybe use her having a child or being with a child make me think that she's an adult, because one would think if you have a child, you're most likely an adult. There's not that many kids that have kids, but there are kids that have kids. Right? And it looks like she's the mother. You can see that woman next door is a grandmother. She's like somebody in the 60s, probably the mother of this woman. And actually, I noticed her going to meet somebody who, at one point, I was like, is that the father of the child? It looks like he's like a little older than her. Like, he looks like he's in his 40s. But this man, to try to create that fantasized reality, like, oh, we're going to frame you. That is the kind of low-lifeness I'm talking about. That's how you are compromised as a human being. But the compromisation is so nasty, because they clearly manipulate the brain in these pedophilia ways. Now, this is just somebody who's a young adult with a child. And so I don't care if they play whatever narrative. I looked at it as okay, just whatever. Yeah. But they do that to babies, to children, to actual children. Kids of all age, from the little kids to the older kids. Even young adults. But once they do that to young adults, I'm like, okay, at that point I don't care. You can do that to the babies. And I've seen some young adults that I could look at. It's like, oh wow. And I'm saying that I gotta change the word "oh wow" because they have rewiring something else. Like, okay, yeah, not bad looking. You know, good for her. In that fashion, like. But this nasty pedophilia type of torture is so disgusting. Now, you see a picture there. You see a picture there? The picture is a child who's in 8th grade. You can see that, 8th grade. You see that person, you know this is a child. You expect this to be a child in the way they look, in the way they think, in the way they act. Because a child acts differently, behaves differently, look differently than an adult. You should not expect a child to behave like an adult. You should not think that a child have the rationality of an adult, the emotion of the adult, the behaviors of an adult. They're children. Why am I saying things so special like that? Is it because I am some kind of genius? No. I'm not a genius. I'm just saying the most basic things. But there's perps and lowlife whose job is to be retarded. Right now in the hallways they're making noise campaign to deflect. To talk about how I'm going to be grilled and tortured. I'd rather be tortured in whatever way. There's one person who's like, oh, he's such a good talker. You see how good I am saying these things? target individual, these perps have no shame. And no shame in regard of how stupid they sound. They completely became clowns. They are human clowns. They are contracted to be clowns. To be childish, to be retarded. And all this retardation for very evil purposes. But it's easy to do what they do. Now you see this child. It's a child. A natural child. You, like I said, will not expect this child to behave like an adult. Because the brain of a child is not developed. It's not fully grown. The brain of a kid is a brain that's under construction. That is not all the way there. You almost compared to a person who was on the spectrum at that point. An adult who is on the spectrum. That's the level of a child. If you know an adult who has the same brain capacity, logic, thought process of a child, you know that person has perhaps mental handicaps. Now what I'm saying here is the things that perps here who try to break you down are trying to make you forget the reality of things of that nature, that simpleness. Me saying that apparently is me talking such a good way of talking. I love to do that. I love to put the real. I'm saying the most simplistic thing in this English that's breaking down to say the most obvious things and sound like a genius because there's retards here. With the tonalities, with the way they're talking, and the clown. To try to disorient you. I know the reality of things. Target vision, what's happening is they are doing things to my brain, altering my brain, my thought process, and create personalities and falsify reality. They're using scare tactics, warning tactics, tormenting tactics, gaslighting tactics of all sorts to try to get you to accept this reality. It's just they have no shame. Now, when I was a kid at that age, as a child who's impulsive, who is growing, whose brain developing, I did some dumb thing. I say singular. I did a lot of dumb things, but what I'm talking about is what happened once. As a child at that age, I did something to myself. It was inappropriate. It was impulsive, and it was the last. There's one thing I've done. It's the one time I did it. It was such an impulsive act at that age. I completely forgot what I did. Completely. It was just another, just an impulsive act that completely left my brain, and I continued to grow up, and completely forgot about that. Now, today, as an adult, a grown man, in my 30s, a grown adult, they make me think, oh, remember what you did as a kid? I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this damn thing as a child. They're like, oh, now you're going to pay for that. And they make the chain nose campaign, all kind of. It's like, you pay what you did when you were in middle school. Now, let me just say this. They have to be trying to exaggerate what I did as a child. But the most disturbing things they do is what they evolved in. With this program, you're going to clearly hear what they do. Just imagine individuals involved in a program that does these harmful things to children. Harmful things to children. I mean, torturing them in the ways you can't even imagine. Atrocities, sexual torture, suffocating them, getting them sick, doing all the evilness you can imagine to children. Trying to make you feel guilty for what you, as a child, at that age, with that brain, with that developing mind, as a child, did, as they are here torturing children. Today is still happening. Right now they try to box in. Oh, you're so down. It's like, no, it's been done. But please, it's not. It wasn't done with you living a fantasy. This church torture children, and they have the audacity to try to be we're severe. The word severe is used because they've been using that severe tactics to harm children. You're gonna hear a woman calling it. I saw this child and she was suffocating, and I started suffocating myself severely. This low life, like I said, what they deserve to happen to them is something else. The worst of the worst. They will get theirs one way or another. I saw them of this shit that can torture and harm kids in ways that's so evil and diabolical. But then what is more satanical out of everything, what's satanical and diabolical, is that they torture children and then play and act like they are avenging and protecting children. It's so disgusting. Can you imagine somebody who's out here torturing children, then all of a sudden play the protector of children? And the way they harm them, it's not just, they are burning kids' genitals. And then act like these protectors and narcissists, and they are so mad of what is so evil to even play that. The worst part is like, at least if you're involved in this, that torture children, and you're like, I don't care about these children, I'm going to torture them too, and then you're going to be tortured too. There is a respect in that. Because the respect is you have accepted the reality. Yes, I enjoy that. These people are involved in something that does so much horrible things to kids. Horrible. Then dumb themselves down. And then act, it's so severe. You're going to pay what you did as a kid. And then start moving their chains. And I was like, this is people who are literally suffocating babies. Oh, the not real things I'm going to talk about. The not real things I'm saying, because they love to say not real. And which I know is just part of the gaslighting. They can check the not real one when we see each other. The not real thing they talk about, you're going to hear the testimonials. And I want you to see a child here and then compare to the horror that you're going to hear this woman and their children go through. Imagine I know these people are involved in that. Not only I know, I was participant in an awareness for target individual, TID 2020. I was there. This is destroying the life of men, women, and children. I was there saying that even if I die today, I was in that same video saying, we need your help. Women, men, and children are dying, are tortured, are tormented every day. I'm there saying, this is happening to me too. But not only me, women and children. This fucking low life. I'm so sorry for the language. And they call themselves, we're just darers, fucking trash, and you're bottom feeders. I would be tortured in whatever horrible way you're talking about. They'll ever be connected to this. And then call myself a darer when you're just a weak, low-life coward as ever. Involved in a program that will torture children, but you want to feel empowered. They've created a movie and fantasized reality of what these people are. What you're going to hear there is sexual crime against children. They try to tell, no, what you did. What I did is an inappropriate act of a child. Which is what you should call it. A child acting inappropriately. The sexual crime that you're going to hear is what they do to children. Is when you use these directed energy weapons and target the private parts. They have these tactics of hitting the private parts. I've made videos a long time ago talking about they have these specialized ways of harming people. They have these specialized ways of just doing evil things to children and women. They have this specialized way of just targeting the private parts of the target individual. It is nasty. And that includes children as young as 3 years old. 3 years old. Some of these perps here tell me, I have a 3-year-old. Can you imagine? You have a 3-year-old, and you're going to hear a testimony of a child that's 3 years old. The age of the child, that's the same age as your child being tortured. The truth is, I know they don't care. Well, I'm sure they're great mothers and fathers to their children by involving a program that tortures children. Matter of fact, they're not even great to their children. Let me just say this something. There's a woman, there's people here telling me how they're going to frame me, right? using their children. They're going to use their children to frame me. That's what this guy was trying to come in. He was trying to find a way to say it in a cool way. They're going to use their own children to say, I raped them. That is so nasty. That's ingrained trashiness. That is, there's a few things in the world worse than that. When it's basically prostituting your own child. It's not that far off from that. Prostituting your own child to do these things. Not thinking about twice about what the future of your child and just prostituting her. Have your child say, hey, you say that he raped you. And they're like, oh, you're going to be prostitute. I was like, okay. Imagine me. As a father, as a parent, say, hey, use my child and say that my child was raped. Say that my child was raped. Because then he's going to be prostituted. Why the F would I put my child in the circumstance for him? What does he have to do with my child? Why would I compromise my own child? My own blood. For this guy's dying man who's what? For what? They are so disgusting. They've lost the real. I'm so thankful that I can be the one saying that out loud what they don't want to see. It feels so good. The women, the men involved, they are so trashy. It's so nasty. And then to hear these people here hyping up these children to do this. I'm like, oh, go ahead, sell your kids, you dumbass. I'm already dying. What torture is going to do to my dying? I'm dying. I'm gone. I'm very much alive. I'm very much alive. But you've compromised yourself. You who are living life. Now, to be determined that can come to you can be magical. You compromise yourself. And to somebody who's dying. For nothing. All the future that can come to you. Some of that, let me just say this. Some of this future has happened to people already. Oh, they're living their life, the best life too. Enjoying life. But what happened? Me, same circumstances, still dying faster, by the way. You, what's happening? Okay. I will put that in their faces and acknowledge reality. My screaming is not going to make your life better. Matter of fact, you not only compromise yourself, now your children. Your children. What's going to come to them? Psychologically, this shit will go down. What, they're going to grow up to be normal people? They have to grow up saying that somebody raped them just to frame them. And on top of that, I'll put the reality of who is in charge of this program. Sexual torture, sexual crime against children. You know what the verbiage came from? There was a BuzzFeed article that you're going to hear that came out not too long ago, 2022 or so. The article was calling out that there has been a lot of issue with child porn, pedophilia in the intelligence community. It's been an ongoing issue and that keeps coming back over and over. They talk about, this happened, there was a CIA agent that did something to a 2-year-old, to a 6-year-old, to some other, all kind of sexual crime against children. All kind, inclusive of a lot of child porn being downloaded. This is not specific to the CIA, it's not specific. The intelligence community as a whole has an issue. And on top of that, the Department of Defense, oh my goodness. It was so bad with child porn there that officially a bill was created because child pornography was being downloaded so much of it, that the Child Protective Agency specializing in child porn said, hey, the Department of Defense Internet Computer Network, we're seeing so much child porn coming from there that we would rank them as a top tier network for trafficking child porn in the United States. That in 2019, 2019, a bill was prompted because these entities were downloading so much child porn. They felt so comfortable to use the computers given to them by the DoD, the network provided by the DoD, to download so much child porn that it was becoming an embarrassment. Why would so many DoD employees would download so much child porn on DoD computers using DoD network? Those DoD entities, by the way, are the same entities running this program that we go through. They are contracting these losers of human beings that have sold their soul and their self-respect and their children. This is so magical. Oh, by the way, they're saying we're going to dare to download child porn. Yes, us who work for governmental entities where child porn is so rapid that we are going to dare to put child porn on your computers and call it daring. Trust, this is not daring. This is exactly, these people have so much child porn. I'm sure the archive of child porn is filled over there. But when they're doing it, because apparently they've created a movie in their mind that it comes from this fierce femme fatale. And it's daring. Trash, these low life are working for government entities, filled child porn, and there's nothing daring about them. There's just shit that are a threat to children. And it's validated by just a bill called End National Defense Network Abuse Act that tried to limit the amount of child porn these entities are downloading and trafficking using the DoD network. These low life are just the bottom feeders for them. I pray that they continue to live this nasty low lifeness with their pajamas and they're so disgusting. You see that those childlike people, you see that? Those are the kind of perps living around me. You see the level of daring they have? Disgusting shit. Now, for me, I obviously don't want to be framed. I obviously don't want to get raped and tortured in whatever ways. But if I put things in perspective, things are not looking good for me already in regard to my health. They've been trying to prolong my life, but the truth is I know that I'm phasing away. So I'm not as concerned as I should be because I understand the current state of my health. My health is not looking good, so that's why I don't care as much as I should. If I was a healthier man, I would be like fighting for whatever I could to survive. But why? No. I think what's important for me is to ensure that this low life do not escape. Ensure that they do not escape. They do not. Escape what? Escape the reality of what they're part of. That these people are flipping, implanting child porn as a daring thing when they are being ranked top tier child porn traffickers. Oh, and by the way, they say because they're women. That changes to everything. They have took over feminism and destroyed it. They thought that them being women, mothers, fathers, changes the reality of what they're part of. They are so disgusting, low life. They are so disgusting. This cowardness is a cowardness that's disgusting. If I was a real feminist, if I was for the rights and protection of women, I would hate these shits for what they are. Because you're going to clearly hear what they do to women. But to think that as a woman, that permits you to do this shit? Is it too fierce? Look at you, you're wearing pajamas right now doing these evil things. You're using retards, child-like shit that have no conscience of reality. They've created a movie where child porn is a daring thing to do, to implant, to frame somebody with. The daring thing to pretend that somebody got raped as a child. To say that my child was raped by this man, a grown woman letting their children do that is so disgusting. Well, try to play with the brain. And then the obviousness of reality. They've been humiliated by reality. Listen, it's clear that they force people to have sexual reaction to children. You know what they try to say? Now we're making your brain beat the brain of a child. Or you, when you're a kid, remember what you did as a kid? First of all, if that's what you say you're making me a mentally handicapped individual. Because you should never compare a brain of an adult to a brain of a child. Two are not falsified. They just make you have these experiences and then try to find ways to make you accepting of these experiences. They want you to identify with this. There was a baby in the background of some call. I didn't see the baby. The baby started doing some scream or some crying. They started forcing me to have sexual stimulation because they have the ability to play with the libido. These trash are disgusting. You're going to hear what they do to actual babies, by the way. Now, I know whatever's going to happen to me is going to happen to me regardless because I know who's behind this. Yes, those entities where this bill was created for specifically are the entities behind this. Why? Because you're going to hear. They're developing a weapon system. And unfortunately, this weapon system needs human subjects to develop. They create this control environment of this trash around you with no self-respect. They're going to be the clowns. That's what they're contracted to be doing. They're contracted to be retards. Some do it very well. Some of them you can see a little bit of embarrassment. Some of them try to be they try to be less embarrassing. Wait a little bit, let the frontliners of retardation be coming first, and then come back and play this game. I call them frontliners because the very childlike individuals will be the one pushing the most stupid thought process. They'll be the one doing the most trashy thing that you can imagine. Wait for it to settle in your brain, and then the more mature ones come in and try to like box it in. I'd rather rot in hell. These people, if whatever flourish, I can imagine going on vacation, enjoying my life, and this is the things I've been involved in. Going just live my quiet, comfortable life, and this is the things I'm connected to. No. The second I get a cold or anything, I'll be like, oh gosh, there you go. Yep, I'm done being God. Target individual, find yourself lucky. You could have been growing up in this nasty, low life, coward low life, bottom feeder life of pedos, of trash, of cowardness. Or the most disgusting is when they make themselves talk in this tonality, as if they've done something so fierce. Oh, but they'll be the first one to run back to the apartment, huh? Oh, Jesus. Target individuals, stay strong. And listen to the obviousness here. Listen to what they're part of.
In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. The project reportedly ended in 1969, but DARPA's investigation of how machines can affect and possibly control the brain continues to this day. Human mind can be altered. In 1965, DARPA launched Project Pandora, which studied the possibility of using microwave radiation to control human behavior. innocent citizens being controlled by government-sanctioned experiments? Is Cheryl Welch telling the truth, or are her claims absurd? Just another conspiracy theory that's impossible to prove? Maybe. But not if you listen to Nick Begich.
I think there's some good evidence that Cheryl Welch and many of the other people I've spoken with have been victimized by this electromagnetic mind control experiments. The weapons of this century aren't bombs and bullets and ordnance, but electromagnetic energy targeting the human being, which is a greatest revolution in military affairs since gunpowder.
Begich is an expert in government mind control. He is convinced the Pentagon has mastered a technology once thought to be science fiction, the ability to broadcast information directly into the human brain.
Our government began spending a lot of time looking at how to modify behavior of human beings. Going back to the Korean War, in fact, in a publication, Low-Intensity Conflict in Modern Technology, they have a chapter on electromagnetic weapon systems, being able to not just to debilitate someone, but actually even to stimulate certain activities within the brain.
But how?
HARP is the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, which started as a joint effort of the Air Force and Navy. This is a very large array or field of antennas based in Alaska, radio frequency antennas.
HARP antennas transmit powerful radio signals into the upper atmosphere to study the effects on wireless communications. But Begich says HARP can also be used for more sinister ends.
HARP has announced several other programs and campaigns, and there's two areas that I got very concerned about. One was weather modification applications. The other was the effect on human beings. If you can modulate a signal that the brain locks onto, recognizes, and begins to mirror or follow the frequency following response. The brain rhythms change, then it creates a chemical cascade within the brain and the emotions change. Now the resolution gets finer and finer and finer. And it used to just to be about triggering emotions. You could change people's brain chemistry pretty readily, change their emotional state pretty easily. But when you get down to the idea of thoughts and being able to manipulate those, that requires a different kind of sophistication.
Can we hear sounds?
Designed to interact with the human nervous system in order to remotely pick up on someone's neural network or EEG and not only receive that and monitor it, but manipulate it and place it back into the victim to control their emotions or control their actions or bodily functions for that matter. The other more recent term we have for that is EEG heterodyning or EEG cloning. The difference between EEG heterodyning and EEG cloning would be, let's say, me remotely receiving your EEG and then duplicating it and putting that in another person to give them your same thoughts or feelings or physical reactions. EEG heterodyning would be receiving your EEG, manipulating it to put it back inside your head to give us a desired physical reaction or emotional reaction.
With external fields of all kinds. For radio frequency, you can look at the Radio Frequency Dosimetry Handbook, 1986, University of Utah, produced for the Air Force. It gives you the resonant frequencies for each vital organ so that you can send in a radio signal that will couple with the liver, the kidneys, the lungs, and cause them to malfunction so that you can degrade the performance of your adversary. The new weapon systems being developed today will attack the mind, the body, and our physiology on an energetic level. Not with bullets and bombs. It's a perfect Republican weapon. No offense to Republicans here, but you don't want to destroy the property. You're going to have to rebuild it afterwards. This is a weapon systems of the 21st century. It's the very beginning of it in a lot of ways, but the research goes back over 50 years.
My name is Dr. John Hall. I'm a medical doctor from Texas. As I understand the memorandum from the President, it's for you to determine if current legislation is adequate in protecting individuals and if there's any ongoing experimentation. In reviewing the common rule, it's very obvious that there's a lot of loopholes to informed consent. All of the horrific experiments you've mentioned, Willowbrook, MK Ultra, radiation experiments mostly were done without informed consent. They were funded by the DoD and intelligence agencies, where I'm not even so sure you would know if there's an IRB, much less if an IRB is looking at informed consent. As a physician, relative to some of what you're hearing today, in the community, we are seeing an alarming rate of complaints of use of electromagnetic weapons, microwave auditory effects, silent sound spectrum, EEG cloning, which has taken the lab out of the laboratory and into the home. Most of these, from the research that we reviewed, can be done remotely. It seems to be more weapons research than medical research. I personally corresponded with upwards of 1,500 victims, all complaining of identical complaints from every state in the nation of being exposed to electromagnetic radiation, non-ionizing radiation for the use of cognitive control or behavior control. I've submitted a paper to you, and there's another paper submitted to each member from another physician in Kansas City, alluding to the same thing.
You do that, you can control them using neuro-linguistic programming techniques. You're rewiring their thought processes and brains. And so this gets into what's called offensive information warfare. And they used it, I believe, in the Gulf War. You can call it a eugenics program even. But also walk them to their... They want to see if they can... Hyper game theory. How do you... They want to see if they can manipulate people to do things that are irrational, but also walk them to their death. And so you can call it a eugenics program even. And they need to sample all cultures, language throughout the world to define their probability matrices of which tricks, techniques, deception works. So how do you control a brain? Most people don't believe that. Well, you can't control me. I have my own free will.
V2K, or voice to skull. This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind. Additionally, the targeting is all highly perverted and sexual, as well as just
It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophiles. Like, this disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't care. I don't know if it's through weapons. I don't know. I don't care.
This is a common breakdown tactic of belief systems and the human will. In no-touch torture, the techniques are more psychologically specialized for each target. Most common examples include homosexual targets that are forced with voices that are derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds. And vice versa.
They use these monarch-style torture programs, like it's based on sex and trauma. So they're gonna traumatize you. They're gonna use your libido to get back at you, and
this technology can be used to sexually manipulate the target. It can make the target feel sexual arousal,
experience what is referred to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including the threat of planted dreams and form of torture. They coordinate the voice. I really mean extreme.
The same thing that I was going through. They started saying all kind of crazy stuff to her, her jobs, and
And I am a victim of organized stalking, electronic harassment, microwave torture, V2K abuse, and I'm asking you to help us end this crime against humanity, which has impacted men, women, children all around the world.
Hi, I'm Wan from Malaysia. My family are targeted individuals. We are victims of cyber torture. And I will not give up. I will fight to the end.
And I'm a victim of organized
We
stalking,
need this to stop.
electronic
That's it.
harassment, and I'm speaking to you on International Targeted Individual Day. I live in the US, in Illinois, and I'm a victim of organized
We
stalking,
need this to stop.
electronic
That's it.
harassment, microwave torture,
I've been targeted for 9 years.
24/7.
Please become more aware of this crime and those that the crime is being committed against. We need your support and help in ending this crime.
Hello, my name is Wendy Brown. I'm a targeted individual who is living in New Zealand, but my targeting began in California. I'm an American citizen, and the targeting continues in New Zealand. I'm making this video in remembrance of Targeted Individual Day, our third annual Targeted Individual Day. And I'm asking that every honest-hearted human being open their eyes to a crime.
My name is Jeanette. I am 56 years old and I live in Baltimore, Maryland. I am a victim of covert electronic harassment and torture. I am a targeted individual.
Hello. Why? Because it hurts. I need help. I need you guys to come get me. It's brutally painful. I have a house, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms.
Ms. Catherine Nestor.
My name is Catherine Nestor and I'm from Pennsylvania. This commission has spoken of a long history of abuse of the human research subject. Although no one mentioned MKUltra today, President Clinton recently apologized for this. My young child and I have been used as non-consensual test subjects. We have been subjected to COINTELPRO-like stalking, remote neural monitoring, and electromagnetic torture, resulting in psychological and physical damage. And I won't go into the details of that because I have 4 pages written in here that is very similar to Connie's testimony. Please do not wait 70 years to investigate this. I ask Dr. Amy Gutman to begin today.
I am currently a speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions. observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. Then I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, "ow." I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each of them during their separate sessions. During one session, I observed one of my 3-year-old clients suddenly grab his crotch and lean forward in his chair. And then he made a frightening grimace of severe
and have had a decent education. I live in El Dorado Hills, California, with my wife of 14 years, Lorna, and our 5 children. Nicole is 15, Patricia 14, Christopher 13, Dylan 9, and Avery 16 months old. Not only have I been going through this, but my entire family has suffered right by my side. We have all experienced the same type of harassment on different levels. We have all suffered the same symptoms while this harassment was going on. Some of our physical symptoms include severe tooth decay and vision loss, unexplained rashes and burns, severe headaches, mood swings, anxiety, thyroid problems, high blood pressure, heart problems, vision loss, and cancer. Two of my children were born premature, which I attribute to this. Our son Dylan, now age 9, was born very premature. He was born at 31 weeks. During her pregnancy with Dylan, we were being targeted more so than other times. At the delivery, there were weird men walking and waiting around the hospital. Right outside our delivery room window, there was a white cargo van parked with 2 suspicious men inside. They were there the entire labor, a delivery. Our son had to be transported to another hospital 45 minutes away. When arriving to the Toa hospital, those same men and van were present. Three of my children have severe rashes that have not been explained by several doctors. These rashes have been present for several years at a time. If interested, I will gladly furnish you with detailed photos of the rashes. Our infant daughter, at 3 weeks old, was diagnosed with Lerner's syndrome. This was after a severe rash appeared on her body after a few days of torture. We were told by a couple doctors to take her home and love her and spend the rest of the time we have with her. They told us she would ultimately die from this syndrome. Thank God that Lerner's syndrome was not what affected our daughter. Doctors are still dumbfounded by her rash and symptoms. Sadly, we know that
estimated that he had viewed up to 6.
What we want on John is new detail. Sensitive secrets, potentially making this. The Defense Department releasing brand new details into an investigation involving child pornography and dozens of its workers and contractors, some with top-level security clearance. Not only are these very serious accusations, but investigators say some of the people involved were handling the nation's most sensitive secrets, potentially making this a matter of national security. Chief Fox Report correspondent Jonathan Hunt with the news. Appalling story, Jonathan. Do we know more about these people and their security clearances?
Well, we don't know their exact job titles, John, but what we do know is that they did appear to have been working, some of them, at high levels across a range of government agencies. Take a look at this, for instance, the National Security Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, and the very secretive Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. Others also work
2-year-old and a 6-year-old. He was simply fired. One employee purchased sexually explicit videos of young girls filmed by their mothers. He resigned. One employee estimated that he had viewed up to 1,400 sexually abusive images of children while on agency assignments. Not sure what actions, if any, were taken by him. One contractor arranged for sex with an undercover FBI agent. I think that you mentioned that. Posing as a child, he had his contract revoked. One CIA staffer was charged with child sexual crimes, and the employee was also under investigation for mishandling classified material. But sexual crimes involving children, says BuzzFeed, including the viewing of images of abuse, have been uncovered at other agencies that handle sensitive information. In a November 2009 report, the Department of Defense acknowledged that dozens of Pentagon staff members or contractors had such images. In 2014, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community found that 2 officials from the National Reconnaissance Office, which oversees America's spy satellites, acknowledged viewing images of child sexual abuse during polygraph examinations. This is so disturbing. At a symposium in 2016, Daniel Payne, a top Pentagon security official, said that when workers' computers were examined, the amount of child porn I see is just unbelievable. Is this something that is happening in the general evil?
Allie, we're told, and when I was put through recruitment into the intel community, you're put through polygraphs, you're put through a rigorous selection process. Why aren't these people weeded out? Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get hired? Can I get a job? You're put through an extremely rigorous background check screening process. It's called an SSBI, single scope background investigation. There are people, they interview you, they interview your family, they interview your contacts, they go through your online footprint, they go through everything. So why is it that when they're going through these footprints, they're not checking, these digital footprints, they're not checking for so many pedophiles getting through their ranks? If it were up to me, you need to go into Congress, and Congress needs to launch a brand new church committee, number one, to talk about domestic surveillance operations, but number two, to ask the question, why are there so many pedophiles sitting behind
the CIA raping children and sexually assaulting children, and they're not being prosecuted? Where are you?
Has come under investigation for links to the proliferation of graphic material. Called Project Flicker, some 5,000 individuals have been identified as having subscriptions to child porn sites, including many DoD-affiliated persons. So this ongoing national investigation has now prompted the House to introduce a bipartisan bill that would help the DoD stop the use of its network to, quote, possess, procure, or produce child pornography. Joining us to discuss this, investigative journalist Ben Swan. So Ben, the Pentagon already takes measures to limit worker access to stuff like porn by rolling out what they call the Personal Electronic Device PED policy, where workers have to drop off their phones and lockers before entering their offices. All their online searches are accessible by security if or when needed. Their Wi-Fi access is monitored in digital security sweeps. So how is this happening?
Well, it's happening because even though there is a certain amount of limitation on access, those who are working in the Department of Defense, clearly it appears to be thousands of individuals in the Department of Defense, are finding ways around this, specifically by using the Department of Defense IP addresses and also apparently peer-to-peer sharing within the department's network. So this study that was done on this issue, and it is pretty horrifying, Manila, to consider this. It shows that the Department of Defense ranked 19th out of almost 3,000 networks in terms of peer-to-peer sharing of child pornography. That is absolutely incredible. This bill attempts to essentially say, look, we're not doing enough to stop it from coming in, but we're also not doing enough in the Department of Defense to go after those individuals who are being recognized as the ones who are perpetrating this.
So Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger is the co-author to this bill. She said this, quote, the notion that the Department of Defense's network and Pentagon-issued computers may be used to view, create, or circulate such horrifying images is a shameful disgrace and one we must fight head-on. Now, the fact that the Pentagon workers, be they civil or military or otherwise, already submit to a gauntlet of daily scrutiny just going in and out of work. Is it fair then to the tens of thousands who are completely innocent to further allow that much more government intrusion into their, their digital devices or the things that they're dealing with on their computers?
Well, remember that what's being talked about here is not an intrusion into someone's personal device or even their home. This is about saying Department of Defense computers are being misused to share, to spread, to access child pornography. And when you step into an office, whether it's a Department of Defense office or it's the offices at RT America, wherever you go into an office, you do not have the right to simply use the technology within that office space however you want. And you certainly don't have the right to use it in a criminal manner. So essentially, this bill is trying to
is a shameful disgrace, and one we must fight head-on, Spanberger said in a statement. According to child pornography watchdog Internet Crimes Against Children Child Online Protective Services, the Defense Department network consistently ranks in the top tier of Internet service providers for trafficking child pornography. It ranked 19th of nearly 3,000 networks surveyed in 2018. Meadows said the legislation.
Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get